So I'll start. I'm Brad Schlager. I'm a child neurologist, president and CEO of Kennedy Krieger Institute, which is affiliated with but not part of Johns Hopkins. The Cncdp grant sits in Kennedy Krieger Institute. And Amy?
I'm Amy Burks-Kayal. I'm the professor and chair of the Department of Neurology at University of California, Davis. And I am one of the co-directors of the Cncdp. And goodness, Brad and I have been doing this for a really long time. We're not going to say how long, because
I'll say.
Fine, you go ahead.
I was an NSADA, so we'll talk more about it, but I was an NSADA. I was just looking at this. I started being a program director back in program director back in 2008. So that was when I was at Washington University. Amber, when did you go?
I'm Amber Huggins Battle. I'm the program coordinator. I handle the administrative aspects of the program, and I work at Kennedy Krieger Institute. I just happen to work at Kennedy Krieger Institute as well.
Great.
Natalie.
Hi, yeah, I'm Natalie. I'm a child neurologist by training, and then I came up to the University of Rochester about 1.5 years ago to do my neuromuscular fellowship, and currently I'm in the T32 experimental therapeutics fellowship. So I'm winding down here in Rochester and have accepted a position at Duke University. So I'll be transferring down there this summer. Yeah.
Congratulations. We have a couple of the graduates of that T32 here. Yeah,
you might know a few.
And Elisa.
Yeah, hi, I'm Elisa. Sorry for the background. I'm actually fax sorting, and so that's the noise of the fax machine. But I'm a neurogenetics fellow in child neurology at Boston Children's Hospital. I actually did my medical school at Hopkins, so I'm quite familiar with KKI. But I'm actually doing it in an MDS R25 fellowship right now. Looking at somatic mutations in autism.
Great. So Natalie, if you'd like to ask that question, and then we can go into the presentation.
Yeah, I just was thinking for the letter of intent, just kind of in general, what you're looking for with that, how detailed or comprehensive versus just kind of big picture kind of information, just to get a sense of how to frame the scope of the project.
Big picture.
Big picture. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
In general, that's what they tend to be, but just
the LOI is really just one for us to know what topics are coming in so we can prepare, make sure we have the right reviewers and faculty there. And then we also ask you to confirm some of the key criteria, like that you're a US citizen or permanent resident, that you have an academic appointment, things that you have to have in order to qualify, because we don't want to make people write grant applications if we know de novo that we wouldn't be able to fund it.
Okay, makes sense. That was it. I just wanted to get just kind of a general sense.
The due date on it is June 1st, just to make sure.
I saw that. Did it get moved up a little bit? I thought it was a little bit later.
Because the meeting is a little earlier this year. We tie our meeting to child neurology so that people don't have to travel twice, and also to encourage collaboration with child neurology and people's attendance there. And this year it's child neurology meetings quite early.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah. My abstract is going in soon.
Good. Viola, we were just saying hi to each other. If you're there. Okay. Well, I will pull up the slides and we can start going through the formal part of it. Okay, so just a little bit of background about the history. In 2016, the K12 program, hi Viola. Good to see you. The program went national, but before then, for really almost 30 years, the NINDS supported a institution-based K12 award. And I trained on it and then directed the one at WashU for some years before coming to Kennedy Krieger. But the national version of it has a has had lots of really great qualities, which includes sort of democratizing the access to this valuable funding, as well as allowing us to create a program. So we think of the CNCDP not just as a pass-through of NIH dollars that we take care of to give to scholars. We think of this as really a comprehensive program, so that both funded and non-funded individuals, we want everybody to succeed on their path to becoming independent physician scientists. The CNCDP is for pediatric neurologists and NDD specialists within 3 years of completion of their clinical training. It's a 3-year period of funding, up to 3 years. We think of it as pre-K, pre-individual K award. So this is really a preparation for your own individual, that should say individual K08 or K23. They're all mentors, so they're not independent. Or some other kind of career development award that's equivalent. Eligibility requires that you be a US citizen or lawful permanent resident. Like I said, no more than 3 years from completion of clinical training. But we do have exceptions. There can be compelling reasons, and we want to hear them and take seriously and judge the appropriateness and have been flexible. Just it depends on the circumstance. The faculty level, largely we're looking for people who are instructors or assistant professor and have a statement from their institution that at the time that the funding period starts, they will have that faculty appointment. K awards are for faculty members. So we need to know that you are on that pathway. It's up to 3 years of funding. Each year is considered a re-upping, but up to 3 years. The salary has just been increased from the NIH for Ks up to $115,000 a year. That's coming from the grant to your institution to cover 75% protected time for research and career development. Does $115,000 equal 75% of effort? That depends on the institution and the salary structure. And Amy is making very clear indications that it's unlikely.
Not at University of California, Davis, it doesn't. I'm just saying.
So you're, that's right. So it is the case that the institution is committing to the 75% effort and that they make whole the rest of your salary for that effort. However, whatever their policy is for doing that, they commit to doing it. In addition, there's $38K a year for research-related expenses, including travel. And then the indirect rate that comes with the money to your institution is 8%, like all K awards. So the expectation of your institution, and this is really serious business here, is that it has, the letter of support must guarantee 75% protected time. And that no more than 25% of their effort, of your effort, would be to pursue clinical and other non-research career development activities. So for example, if your clinical time adds up to 25%, then you're out of compliance, because no faculty member is only 75% research, career development, 25% clinical. There's other things that you have to do as a faculty member, right? Other things. So it can't be that the clinical effort adds up to 25%. It's non-research and career development activities adds up to 25%. So there's a guarantee requirement also that we hold firm to, of a minimum of 50% protected time and salary support for at least 18 months after the 3-year funding period. So that's really important. It's a demonstration that the institution is not only supporting you because you're bringing in some funds. They're supporting you fully, recognizing that sometimes it takes a bit more time to get that next award, a K08 or a K23, for example.
Do we have a slide, Brad, talking about how NINDS calculates percent effort?
It's not in here, but I think
Okay.
we have it on the website.
Yeah, it's important to know because lots of institutions do it differently.
Yeah.
Some are more time-based, some are more revenue effort-based, right? So sometimes 10% effort is not a half day of clinic, depending on what you're doing
Right.
at your institution. NINDS is very clear about this. So NINDS is time-based, and it's time during the week. And with, so it's really, a half day of clinic is 10% effort. A full day of clinic, 8 hours of clinic is 20% effort. A week of inpatient service is no less than 2% effort. So it might be more depending on how many days and how much your effort is, but it can't be less than that. So that is how they calculate it. So for example, if you do a full day of clinic a week, you really can only do like 2 weeks at most of inpatient service, right? And even that's going to put you at like 24%. If you do, one half day a week of clinic, then you could do, say, 6 weeks of inpatient effort and be, within, less than 25%. But it's not, there used to be a problem with institutions making the denominator very, very high. So you were doing 70, so if you were doing, 25% of 100 hours a week, that could be 25 hours a week, right? And that NINDS kind of put a stop to that, and they have a very clear criteria for it. And the reason it's important is that you need to have this discussion with your division chief or your chair, depending on who is responsible for that, because this is a pretty strict criteria, and they're gonna, at most institutions, they're gonna have to make a gap investment in that 75%, because it's unlikely that the $115,000 a year is going to cover 75% of your salary. If it is, then you need to think about your salary. And you may or may not, with that time doing general child neurology, if you are not a proceduralist, actually even bring in that 25% of your salary during the 25% clinic, during the clinical time that you have. So your institution is going to have to make an investment in you, and they know that, but you need to make sure they understand and agree to that investment, in addition to the potential additional 50% protected time with no associated funding that they commit to for another year and a half. So this is one of those things that you don't want to, a week before the LOI is due, say to your chair, gee, are you okay with me applying to this, right? This is something you want to have. It's a conversation you want to have proactively.
Yeah, I can share with you that what I do here and what the approach was when I was at Washington University is that I ask for no more than 20% clinical time, because I think there has to be some time devoted towards your administrative obligations, and I do not want them to be cutting into your research and career development activities. So I err on the side of making it very clear that there's protected time for your faculty related responsibilities, separate from clinical, separate from research and career development. Not everybody does that or has the ability to do it, just to give you a sense of what we do here. Okay, so one of the elements of the program that is important to know about, that makes it a program, not just a funding mechanism, is that we have faculty advisors. Each scholar has an assigned Cncdp advisor for the full funding period. It's one of the members of our faculty, might be part of the executive committee, which is, there's 7 of us, or it might be part of the roughly 19 others that are that make up the full faculty. These are physician scientists in the field of child neurology. or NDD with significant career mentorship experience. They also come from, they're about 25% are adult neurologists or pediatric specialists of other kinds. So we've got an interestingly diverse group of advisors that, for the very most part, circumscribe the kinds of research topics that our applicants have. The CNCDP advisor interacts with the scholar quarterly. There's a in-person site visit during the first year of funding. That's to build relationship, but it's also to have that advisor meet with the leadership at your institution to get to know them, to make sure that they understand this program has a robust structure, and that we take seriously the institutional support that's required. We ask you also to come to the annual meeting each year that we also call the retreat. It's a great opportunity to network with leaders in child neurology and your peers. You'll hear a lot about this, but you create these generational relationships. Like Amy and I have known each other for, I don't know how long at this point. A lot of it came from.
We discussed not mentioning those things.
That's right.
A long time.
A long time. And that comes from we met through the child neurology meeting.
We did.
So it's an important part of the experience, and you'll see that there's some long-lasting effects from that participation. Natalie, you asked about letters of intent. So here's the content. The statement of intent is a one-pager that has the information that's listed here and a brief career development plan. Page 2 is the aims. And then page 3, if you're reapplying, and we do allow reapplication. We've had people funded on their 3rd application, for example. It's not common, but the point is that under the right circumstances, reapplication is appropriate and can be rewarded with funding. So if you are reapplying, we ask that there's basically a justification for why a year later you're still a candidate for a K-12 rather than an individual K award. The up-to-date NIH formatted bio sketches for the candidate and mentors, proof of citizenship, and then submit as a single PDF. And there may be modifications to the process coming, but for now, I'll just say, right, submit as a single PDF. June 1st is the deadline for the LOI.
Could I just interrupt real
Yep.
fast and just go back to that
Yep.
prior slide, just to ask really quickly for the completion of the clinical training, is that from residency, or like for me, since I did the neuromuscular fellowship, would it be from the end of neuromuscular fellowship?
The end of the neuromuscular fellowship.
Okay.
Some post-residency activities, like there are some epilepsy fellowships that are a year of clinical, year of research.
Yeah.
We would say at the end of the clinical part of the clinical fellowship.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the intent is to facilitate getting into that K to R pathway. We review all the LOIs. We're looking to make sure basically you meet criteria and the content aligns. This year, the full applications invitations will be emailed out a week after the LOIs come in, roughly. So you'll know soon. Full applications mid-August, and then the annual meeting is in early October, which is earlier this year than it's been in some years. The full application is not unlike a K. It's 1 page for specific aims, 6 for the research plan. It says new. This is actually not so new anymore. We've had for a couple of years now a diversity statement to address your commitment to diversity. In how you interpret it, it can include your professional, your personal, could include your research, if it's, for example, if it's oriented towards human investigation, making sure that that you're recruiting diverse samples, and so on. a statement half a page long that gets at how you think about commitment to diversity. The career development plan is 3 pages. It is really important. That's true for K-12, it's true for K-08, K-23, any career development award. It cannot look like it was rushed, and it can't look like you took somebody else's, swapped out a few things. Yeah, this was successful for this other person. I'll just make some minor modifications. It's got to really look like your plan, clearly configured to address gaps and to be thoughtfully implementing the expertise of your mentorship team. No limit on literature cited. The mentor statement, we say a 3-page maximum. Mentors, because if you've got a team, we'd like your members of your team to also contribute to that statement. It could all be part of a single document, no more than 3 pages, that has, when appropriate, contributions from other parts of your mentorship team. The institutional support statement has no limit in length. Okay, so that was the didactics. Now, any questions from those pieces? Laura Gilbert. Laura, welcome. Saw you joined. So, any questions? Go ahead, Viola.
Yeah, pardon, just a quick question. So the letter from the mentors will be specifically addressing how they're gonna contribute to our career development. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a combination of what they see in you, how they're committed to your career development to independence, how they will specifically contribute to your success in that space, how they will coordinate across the mentorship team. Really a reflection that not only have they read, but they completely buy into the career development plan. That is all of a piece. Amy, anything else you want to say there?
No, I mean, it should, it should reinforce your career development plan, right? So they should talk about how they're going to participate in your career development plan. And it doesn't need to be, the other thing with, mentor statement is it doesn't need to be a single person. You do need to have a sort of a primary mentor, and usually that's the person that is a topic mentor for you and very knowledgeable in the area that you're developing your research in. But you may also have career mentors. You may, if you're, have a statistical mentor, you may have, maybe bringing together 2 different areas of expertise for a really sort of unique and innovative idea. So you might even have 2 different mentors, one more clinically related and, one that brings in expertise that is aligned. And that's fine and encouraged. It's just you would want the mentor statement to really, talk about how those people are going to work together and what they're going to do. And you want to include things like how often you're going to meet, what sorts of things you expect you'll be, talking about, what they'll be helping you with. So those are all the things that go into sort of a good statement.
So we have a roster of what we think of as frequently asked questions. We can go through those. You can decide whether they align with your questions, or you can ask away, whatever you'd like. So I'll just start diving in and then interrupt me if something inspires you. So one of the questions we get a lot is, what's a reasonable work breakdown for a faculty position? So 75% full-time professional effort, research and career development. Amy, so here it is. Here. Half a day per week equals 10. NINDS says half a day per week equals 10%. 1 week of full-time service is the minimum of 2%. That's NINDS. So if you have 25% clinical effort, that's a problem. There has to be time for administrative responsibilities as well. Importantly, on-call responsibilities cannot occur during your protected time. Otherwise, it can't be called protected. The protected time includes evenings and weekends. Vacation time can be taken, but it has to be prorated and cannot come from the protected time only. You can imagine there might be somebody who squeezes you so that you take your vacation during, and that's allotted towards your 75%. That can't happen. Oops. Can I move to a different institution after my initial application? The answer is yes, and we've had multiple examples, and we continue to have multiple examples. One of the beautiful, I think, things about the national form of the K-12 as opposed to the institution-based is that you can move. There's portability because the award is not at a given institution. It's at Kennedy Krieger, and then we subcontract out to wherever you may be. Now, you have to submit an institutional letter of support for your new institution with all the elements of the previous one. You also have to have a new letter of support from your new mentor to demonstrate that the local mentor and the team is appropriately configured, fully supportive. You might have to change your specific aims, and we want to see what that is, and your career development plan, and we want to see what that is. It might be that the move is disruptive to your prior plan. We are supporting, after all the process goes through, we're supporting you, not the scientific portfolio. We're supporting you. So if you move after you've been awarded the K-12 support, we just have to see that you have excellent aims, an excellent career development plan, and the institutional support and mentorship support that is appropriate for receiving this K-12 award. We review it, and I'll tell you that we have done this multiple times now since the inception of the Cncdp, and have approved each time there's been a request. We've yet to not approve one. We just have to see the justification.
And sometimes we've kibitzed. I mean, there are times that there were moves that we didn't think were setting the scholars up for success. And we encouraged the new institution to institute some changes that would position them to more successfully complete their K-12.
That's right. We give feedback.
We are somewhat interventional, but
This is another...
we have never said no. We've just said yes if.
Yes, if, that's right. Another advantage of it not being at your own institution is that we can, advocate on your behalf, but we can also, we have the wherewithal to make these calls. So, but bottom line is you're serious people. It's a move that you're making for professional or personal or both reasons. We want to make it work for you. So it might be an iterative process, but we work to get to yes. Can I apply for the K-12 and the K-08, K-23 at the same time? Technically, yes, but we don't recommend it. Imagine your mentor statement for the K-12. We recognize that this applicant is appropriate for a pre-K award, needs to do the work necessary to get ready to apply for a K-08, K-23, while simultaneously writing a letter of support for your K-08, K-23 application saying, this applicant is definitely ready for K-08, K-23. It's an untenable situation. It happens, but we don't recommend it. What we do recommend is take advantage of us, apply for the K-12, get involved with the Cncdp, get involved in the program, and maybe you'll get funded. Maybe you'll get great input that will bolster your individual K award application that you submit the next cycle. All of those scenarios have happened. So you can't have both the Cncdp award and a concurrent career development award, especially not another K award from the NIH, but any other reasonably sized career development award, that matches the support of the Cncdp. But take advantage of us, do it sequentially, and get pulled in to the CNCDP program. So even if you aren't funded by us, you're still part of the family. You apply, you're part of the, you go to the retreat, you get plugged into the network. And I think there's all kinds of benefits that come from that. Any questions on that point? Okay.
And you do, everybody that applies to the process, you actually will meet, we have interviews with people that most of the time it is with people who have read your application. If not, it'll be with a advisor, CNCDP faculty advisor who has expertise in the general area, and they will go through it with you. I mean, again, it is not a traditional review process. So they read your grant, they're going to ask you questions about it. They're going to make suggestions on, if they think there are areas that can be improved. And then you'll also get, a fairly detailed review from us with suggestions on ways that it can be improved. So although we would love to fund every person that applies for this award, we're not given that kind of funding, but we can make sure that we provide value through the process for everybody that applies to the award. So you get to, you get the process of the review, you get feedback, you're connected with people in, physician scientists and researchers in child neurology who are interested in advancing your career, many of whom, even if we haven't been able to fund them, members of our faculty group remain in touch with, and you get to meet other people in child neurology that are doing research. And that networking opportunity, as Brad mentioned at the beginning, is really critical, because these are your people, right? These are the people you're going to be spending your career with. And making those, connections early will help later on when those same people are asked to, provide letters of recommendation, or when you need a collaborator, or when you're trying to make a career decision and you'd really like to talk to somebody that's going through the same sort of thing. So there's a lot of benefit to the application, that extends beyond just if we're able to provide you with funding or not.
How much data do I need to apply? So by the rule, you don't need any, but the reality is that you're going to be more competitive if you have some data. It doesn't necessarily mean the data that you yourself have collected on your own. People write these applications relatively early in the process, but it's really about feasibility. And the reality is that you'll be more competitive if you can provide some data. However, if you are reapplying and you don't have data, that's going to be just a practical problem, because what's happened in the intervening year? Why don't you have some data to bring to bear? So, simple question. It really depends on the circumstance. Any questions about that? So this is one that I think is pretty common. I have some data on Project X, but I really want to focus on Project Y. What should I do? And we think that the best strategy is to go with the strongest argument, which means if you have data on Project X, go for it. Use that for your K12, and then there's no requirement that your K08, K23 is like aim 3 of the first 2 aims of the K12. It's really about building your career pathway. So go for the strongest argument, get your funding, and get to work. And as soon as you're able to transition to the K08, K23 approach, go for it. They should be related, but they don't have to be linear.
And remember that the purpose of a K, both a K12 as well as a K08 and K23, the outcome of a K award is not the data. The outcome of the K award is the investigator, right? It's unlike any other award you're ever going to have. From now on, you get an R01, you get a U01. The outcome is the results of the study, right? This outcome is you. And so if you have some preliminary data in one area that would allow you to say, I think it's feasible for me to work on this research for the next few years. And in getting that research, I'm going to get skill A, B, and C that's going to set me up to successfully transition to a K23 or K08 award, where I will use skills A, B, and C to study, something adjacent. Right? It doesn't, but it's not that the data has to be linear, but you should be able to argue how the skills that you're going to acquire will help you in the next set of your career. Remembering that, again, the most critical outcome is you becoming a successful independent investigator. Now, a bad research plan that's not feasible and is poorly supported by anybody's data, yours, your mentors, or in the literature, is not a successful route to becoming an independent investigator, right? Because it's not going to lead to you getting a good research experience and publications that you're going to need to make that next step. So we do care about the scientific plan and the research design, but it's not, if it's not going to be Nobel Prize winning data, that's fine. That's actually preferred. We want you to do something that's going to help you build research skills rather than something really novel and risky that may not actually in the end help you to develop those skills that you need.
Any questions or comments on that? So what's a good startup package that would assist in showing that the institution is being supportive? And so it's important for that letter of support to include a recognition that the 38K of research dollars in the K-12 just isn't going to cut it for virtually any kind of research program. So there has to be some additional support. Could be a dollar amount like indicated here, or a statement saying that there will be sufficient funds available for the scholar to complete the research. A statement asserting or attesting to that support. There has to be this protected time, as we discussed, 18 months of 50% effort at least, but more is better. And then the idea of having access to space to work in once you get into the K08, K23 portion. Could be your own independent space. It could be dedicated space within the mentor's space. It really depends on the circumstance, but a clear statement. It is the case that we've seen situations where the letter of support was straightforward, but then the delivery was not. And that when Amy says that we can be interventional, we will step into that situation when needed.
Now, that said, you don't, especially for a K-12, you really don't need to be assigned independent space.
Exactly.
And with a mentored award, frequently the best research training experiences if you are working in space with your mentor to learn and experience to leverage potentially staff that are working with your mentor that you may not be able to support on, you might not be able to support on your own, and things like that. So you shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have 600 square feet of independent space assigned to me. That is not needed. At this point in time, and often lies fallow, honestly. If it's over in another building and your mentor is somewhere else, you're likely to be with your mentor in their lab rather than off in some independent corner where you have space but have yet to get equipment or personnel that are going to fill that space.
It really needs to make sense for what you have to do. I mean, that's the starting point. Is it better to wait 1 year if still eligible or go in with less data? And we say apply as soon as you can submit a well-designed and well-written application. That's true for the K-12, it's true for the K08, K23, it's true for your R01. As soon as you can submit a well-designed and well-written application, go for it. Gaming it out is unlikely to yield. Get in there. How
It
bad is
also help, right? Because you may, I don't know, I have never been great at guessing. I always think the biggest weaknesses of my grants is X, and they always find Y that I'm not expecting. So having another set of independent eyes look at your research design and your career development plan and say, these are the things that could be improved, is that plus an additional year of data is even more helpful, right? So again, there is no penalty at all for applying and then needing to come back in the following year if you really do need a bit more proof of concept that your research would be a good training program for you.
How bad is it to go in again with an improved proposal that was not funded? Well,
I think I answered that.
Yeah, exactly. Is it unlikely for the CNCDP to support more than one scholar from the same institution? We have done it, but we definitely prefer to spread funding to as many institutions as possible. That was actually one of the objectives of the national program. At its heyday, the ANSADA had, I think, 11 institutions at any one time, or 8 at any one time, 11 total. And the reality is that with the CNCDP, we've been able to broaden the number of institutions significantly by more than 2-fold that have scholars, and by more than 3-fold that have had scholars apply. So it's really changed the landscape. So we are not obliged to, but we have in our mind the value of spreading it around. What do you look for in an institutional mentor? This really gets at whether they have to have NIH funding or not. It's definitely helpful, but you can have a team that includes non-NIH funded mentors too. I think at least one mentor, preferably your primary mentor, has that, but it's not a rule. It's the rule is to configure a mentorship team that meets your needs. Sometimes the person who knows your science best might be a basic scientist who has no idea what the life of a physician scientist is. For that situation, make sure you've got physician scientists on your mentorship team, or vice versa. But just really, it's thoughtful configuration of your team. Are biosketches needed from all mentors for the LOI? Definitely the primary mentors for the LOI is required. It's recommended to have the biosketches for the LOI, but not required until full application. At full application, definitely all mentors should have biosketches, all of them. In order to assert that this person is going to provide you mentorship experience X, we need to see their biosketch to know that they can deliver on that promise. You don't want to have your application undermined because you did not get such person's biosketch. Get them all. What's the best contact for technical questions? Go through that email that you see here. I suspect you've used it perhaps already. It gets read by Amber, and then if she's got it, she answers it. If she needs any kind of guidance, she reaches out. But for the vast majority, Amber's expertise covers it. So that's the email. What is the ideal length of the career development plan for the LOI? Well, that's a very specific question. It gets asked because the uncertainty of the LOI. So all information except the specific aims in the biosketch have to fit into one page. So the career development plan likely should not be longer than a paragraph. Probably lays out the structure of the mentorship team and the intent to address gaps in your career development up to this point. But half a page, there's not going to be, or a paragraph, there's not going to be much beyond that. Yeah, the LOI career development plan, just we want to see that there's a structure. The action is really in the full application. this is kind of a wonky question. Will the full grant need to be initially processed by the institution administrators who will then submit it online? Or will I be submitting the application myself online? Okay, so when you submit a grant at your home institution, very likely it goes through a grants office, budget gets approved. The structure of the grant, there's probably a questionnaire that frames it, and then that gets approved, and then you submit it, and then they process it for you. That's not what's happening here. You're going to upload your full application via our website. Now, it may be the case that at your home institution, their policy is that they need to be notified in advance of any submission and might require some kind of internal review. So that's more about your institution's policies, your institution's grants office policy. So reach out to find out what the needs are. So we don't set that. We receive what we get. So you need to have some savvy about what's going on at your own institution. Your mentor, your division chief, they should, senior investigators in your group, they should be able to guide you, or just reach out directly to the grants office. For the full grant, the instructions state it's not required to have letters of support from all mentors, but is it recommended? So if you have a team of mentors, like I said earlier, it's recommended that you submit letters of support from up to 3 mentors. It's going to be hard to have 3 pages represent more than that, I think. But very good to have the primary mentor and maybe the number 2 and number 3 key mentors of that team to provide letters of support. And it's not just saying you're fantastic, the greatest person they've ever met, and get a Nobel Prize. It's really saying, I agree with the career development plan. I think it makes perfect sense for my abilities. I think that she is an excellent candidate. And with this mentorship team and my contribution to it, we will get her to independence. Is it true or correct that a budget does not need to be attached with the full grant submission? So our budget is predetermined by our grant mechanism. You don't need to include a budget with the application. However, your institution might have a policy that requires routing and pre-approval of the application. So again, you need to know what your institution's policy is. We don't need to see your breakdown. What's the recent applicant success rate for being awarded K-12 funding on the first attempt? Well, it's pretty competitive, although back when it was 4 or 5 scholars per cycle instead of now 6, it was more competitive. We get about 15 to 26 applicants per year, maybe 25% or so are reapplicants. So it's actually, it's probably on the order of 30, 25, 30%, like in that range.
Been around 30% the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good, actually.
Yeah. It's 0% if you don't apply, though.
Exactly.
That's like the cliche joke, but you gotta go for it. So that's the end of these exciting frequently asked questions. Are there other questions that are maybe infrequently asked but are on your mind?
Apparently you nailed it, Brett.
Well, it's a team effort, right? Hey, Laura, I was just in St. Louis this past weekend for a festival.
You were?
Yeah.
Did you have a nice visit?
It was great. It was
Oh,
great.
good. It was nice weather too this past weekend. Today does
Well,
not look like this though.
Yeah. So that's all. That's what we have. We've got a little bit of time left. If no further questions, we can call it the afternoon.
Just give you 7 minutes back in your day.
Yeah, can I just ask a stupid question?
Yeah.
Thank you. So is there any other rules in terms of applying for other grants and being able to keep 2 grants or?
Yeah, so
Um,
for other NIH grants, you can get another NIH grant. I wouldn't get an R01. That would defeat the purpose. But let's suppose you were a co-investigator on somebody else's R01. That effort is on top of the 75%. So it would cut into the effort devoted to your clinical work. Okay. Now, because the situation might arise that you get some small foundation grant
mhm.
that supports the work that's proposed in your K-12, we would consider that to be sort of in kind, especially if it's dollars to support the research, not effort. It would be considered in kind support for the research piece.
Mhm.
If you have another career development award, like there's some career development awards from our neurology societies or other societies that are really that they don't provide much. We recommend that you negotiate with them to convert the funds to become support for the research rather than your effort, because the effort is already covered by the K-12 award. NIH says no other career development award can be granted simultaneously. If you convert some other award to be just dollars for research, that's a way to navigate it. It's a bit of a case-by-case basis. So let's suppose you get the K-12. We would want to hear about your advisor first, and then potentially us. We'd want to hear about what you have in mind for applying for other awards and can guide you on that. Again, we want to work towards yes, because we know that the award does not really provide full support for the research. But we have to abide, of course, by the NIH rule about simultaneous career development award, as well as having other NIH funding not simultaneous with the 75% protected time.
So AAN in particular, a lot of people apply for AAN awards. Some of those awards require 75% or 50% protected effort for that particular project. You don't have that much effort, right? So you literally can't apply for those unless AAN is willing to, as Brad said, shift from providing salary support effort to putting funding into your into the research project. So you have to talk to them about it. There are some AAN awards that they will not allow you to hold a K-12 with. So it's also not just on our side, but it's really the effort issue. You can't be getting salary support for the same project from 2 different sources, even though, yes, there's a gap there. And you can say, well, you're only actually paying 50% of the cost, 50% of my salary. That doesn't matter. As far as NIH is concerned, we own 75% of your time and effort to do research on the project for the K-12. So then that's the only salary support you're allowed to get for that 75% of your activity. So if you get another 10% effort for something else, then that makes your research effort 85%, and your clinical effort then has to be less than 15. So it really depends on the effort that you put on that application.
Now, suppose there's an internal funding mechanism at your institution that says, that you can compete for. It might be a diversity, it might be a specific research topic, it might be some other non-NIH mechanism. Not a career development award, but effort. It's internal institutional resources, not some external funding mechanism. On a case-by-case basis, that those funds may be applicable to your protected time because it's institutional dollars, and it may not be the department, but it might be some fund that the department has access to that can be used to offset the gap between your 115K and the rest of your 75% protected salary. Does that make sense?
And
So,
some institutions have those mechanisms in place. Like UC Davis, if you get a K award, the institution, not the department, does the make whole on that 75% effort up to your negotiated appropriate for rank and step negotiated salary.
so one of
I
the
think-
jobs of your institutional mentor is to work with you to understand what resources are available across your institution to your division head or department chair, your mentor are all really part of their job is to understand those kinds of opportunities to support you.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the other question was more how is the proposal judged? Is there like a percentage on the research in itself and a percentage on the candidate, or how is it how does the process
This
work?
is Amy's the boss of this.
Yeah, it's very overlapping. It is hard to separate those things. So, you know, your research proposal is judged in terms of how likely it is to be feasible, how well designed it is, and in our opinion, that reflects strongly both on you as a candidate and on your mentor. Right? So the things that we judge are the candidate and how likely we think they are to be successful based on the institution and the support that is there and the mentorship that they have and the research plan are the big things this is judged on. And they all interact. So if you have a not great, not strong research plan, that reflects badly on what kind of career development opportunity it's going to be and on your mentor and on you as a candidate, right? If that research plan is really strong, but the career development plan is really sort of, I'm going to go to the lab and do research, or I'm going to do this project and I know I'll learn stuff. The research plan can be spectacular, but without a good career development plan, that is not going to be a highly ranked application. Right. So you need all of them, and it is not like 20% goes to one and 35% goes to another, because they're all very closely intertwined.
Yeah, there's not a rubric for it. That's right. And what ends up happening, just so you inside baseball, is that the review group is our faculty broadly, and then this executive committee of the Cncdp, we deliberate after getting all that information from the reviewers. So it's a little bit analogous to what happens at NIH study section and council. Not entirely, because we take into account other kinds of information, but there is a separation there. And that gets at, I think, the question about whether multiple people can be from the same institution, or we want to make sure that we have good representation across levels of investigation. We care about diversity. There's all kinds of dimensions that factor into the ultimate determination of funding, as you might imagine, and I think would hope to be the case.